Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventures. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie Firestarter. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you are concerned about spoilers and you haven't seen the movie yet, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. So Firestarter is a sort of a remake of the 1984 movie of the same name, and they're both, of course, based on the book by Stephen King. As far as what I liked about the movie, overall, I thought the cast did a good job. Kiera Armstrong as young Charlie, I think did a very good job. You know, it's hard to find good child actors, and I think she did a good job with the material that she was given. Kurtwood Smith is in here with just a small kind of role, just one scene really, but he does a very good job. You know, really kind of chews up the scenery in a good way, I would say. You can tell he's really, giving his all in the performance. John Beasley was in here as one of the cops, I think. I liked him. Tina Young as the teacher was great. Michael Greyeyes, I'm a big Michael Greyeyes fan. He was in a show called Rutherford Falls that I used to watch. That if they bring it back for another season, I'll continue to watch. And he was in Blood Quantum, a movie that I really liked. Music in this movie was probably one of my favorite things about it. Tricks you right in the way. It's done by John Carpenter and his son Cody Carpenter and Daniel Davies. John Carpenter, interestingly enough, was supposed to direct the original Firestarter movie with Drew Barrymore, but because The Thing bombed at the box office, he wasn't given the opportunity to direct it, which is odd to think that The Thing could have bombed, but well. I really like the cinematography in this. There's a lot of really interesting shots. There's one where like Charlie's kind of riding the bike away from the boys after kind of stealing it. There's a Vertigo homage in here. There's this shot in the beginning from sort of like the baby's perspective. So there's like a lot of really interesting shots, and the way it was sort of framed looked really good, and it was interesting to me, at least some of them. I thought the fire effects in the movie were mostly pretty good. There's definitely some sort of questionable effects, but in general, I thought most of the fire looked pretty good, but better than I expected, actually. There's an opening credit sequence where they sort of explain the backstory behind the parents and sort of why this little girl has these pyrokinetic abilities that I thought was well done, and I like that. And I think there's just something that's fun about watching a young child murder people. It's sort of like watching a bunny rabbit or do something very cute, do something very destructive is interesting. As far as what I didn't like about it, like I said, I actually liked a lot of the sort of direction of the cinematography, the way things were set up, but I thought some of the acting didn't come across very well. And I think it's not really a fault of the actors so much, because they're fairly talented actors who I've seen in other things do well. I think it was just more the style of direction wasn't sort of geared toward them, or I don't know, they weren't given enough takes, or it's hard to say. So like Gloria Reuben, for example, plays the sort of head of the company, who I think Martin Sheen played in the original. And she's a fine actress who I've seen things like Mr. Robot and a couple other things, but some of her scenes I thought were pretty good, and some of them were pretty bad. And so I don't know why. What they could have done there. Even her scene with Kurtwood Smith, where I think, he mostly is doing a really good job. He's really acting there, and she's not really giving him as much return. Even one or two of Kurtwood Smith's lines, I think, could have been better as well. There's a scene where Zac Efron sort of explains how he rescued Charlie from the institute, or whatever, the shop, and the way that it's written is very, very odd, and the way that it's delivered is also odd. And so same thing, Zac Efron's not great in this. He's a somewhat limited actor, but he's definitely shown, a little bit more range than I've seen in some. And in this movie, yeah, he really wasn't doing it for me. And he doesn't really have much to do either. Overall, I don't really love the story, but in some ways, it's hard to fault the movie for that, because it is an adaptation. So I think a lot of the issues I had with the story are issues that were in the book, although they did make quite a few changes from the book. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. The government organization in here, the shop, I thought was kind of cartoonish and not really very scary or intimidating. There's a weird scene where the girl sets her mom on fire because she's upset. And so the dad takes her out to get ice cream. And then the girl kind of mumbles something. And the dad goes, "What'd you say?" And she goes, "It was supposed to be you." And then they just move on. Like, he doesn't have any follow-up questions. I think it's pretty normal for kids to threaten to want to murder their parents, but usually it's an idle threat. Usually those kids don't have pyrokinetic abilities. They usually don't actually have the ability to do that. So that's definitely a little weird. Like I said, I thought the fire was actually mostly pretty good, but some of the effects I think could have been better. I think they were kind of going for an homage for the 80s movie with the way they kind of did the close up on the girl with the wind and everything, but I thought they could have done something a little bit better there. In a lot of ways, this really feels like a TV pilot or a made for TV movie. It has very much like a sci-fi channel kind of early 2000s vibe to it. There is a part of animal cruelty in here. Again, that is a scene where the special effects aren't great, so it's not very realistic, but I can see how that would definitely upset and trigger some people. And it didn't necessarily need to be there. They kind of sort of sets off something that they pay off later, but it's not necessary. They did this thing where Zac Efron's character is bleeding from the eyes when he uses his powers. It's to show that it hurts him. In the book, I think he gets migraines or something, and I think his brain does bleed. I don't think it comes out of his eyes, but it just seems kind of emo and kind of like edgelordy to me, kind of silly whenever they did that. And then, at the end here, they made some changes to the John Rainbird character, which I think were good. At least they cast a Native American actor to play him. But it is sort of odd that, they have him kill her mom, and then he kind of becomes obsessed with her because everyone's like, oh, wait till you see her. And then, like, at the end, she, like, runs off with him. She leaves with that guy. And it's like, well, that's the guy who killed your mom, dude. Like, what? Yeah, that wasn't great. And I will say, as much as I like Michael Greyeyes, I don't know if he was the best, I mean, he did a good job with what he had. It's a tough character to play. Maybe Adam Beach. I don't know if I can say somebody better, for the role, but yeah, as much as I'm a big Michael Greyeyes fan, I didn't 100% buy him in this one. The movie was produced by Blumhouse, who of course have made a lot of horror movies, and some of them good, some of them not so good, but they almost have like a modern kind of Hammer Films feel to them, and I appreciate that. Keith Thomas is the name of the guy who directed this. This is his second movie, I think. He did something called The Vigil before this, which I haven't seen. I've heard kind of mixed things about. And he's done some TV, and it was written by a guy named Scott Teems, who I think before this, the only credit I really recognized of his was Halloween Kills, which I didn't love. And so not surprised. And I really do feel like in some ways the writing was probably the weak point of this. Also the budget a bit, I think, constrained them. Like I said, it's based on a Stephen King book. There are quite a few changes in the book. The book sort of starts in media res, where they're just in the middle of New York City, sort of being chased, and then they kind of explain the rest of it kind of through flashbacks and stuff. They don't do that quite as much here, and in the book, they get imprisoned by the shop for quite a long time. The dad gets addicted to drugs, I think, gains some weight, loses his powers. They kind of skipped over all that, which is fine, but like I said, John Carpenter was supposed to direct the original, but he didn't. But he got to do the music for this one, so that's pretty cool. And it is a very John Carpenter-like score. Like if you heard it, even if you played it for someone who didn't know anything about music, and you said, "What does this sound like?" They would say, "Oh, it sounds like the Halloween soundtrack." In the original movie, they had George C. Scott play John Rainbird, who is not Native American at all. So definitely not a choice. Great actor, but weird choice there. And Art Carney, I think, played the farmer. And actually, I'm sorry, that is who John Beasley played in this one, the farmer Irv, who I did like him. I thought he did a good job. So yeah, like I said, I feel like it's more better suited for streaming than theaters. I did watch this on Peacock. I did not go to the theater to see it, and I'm glad I didn't. I would have felt like I wasted some money there. But that being said, it is in a way kind of cheesy, but not entirely terrible. You can argue that it is one of these movies where it's not quite so bad it's good. It's just kind of nothing. But I feel like, I don't think I disliked it as much as everyone else seems to. So as far as my score, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's not a great movie. It's not a memorable movie. But I do think, if you were a fan of the book or if you were a fan of the original movie, which the original movie is not that great, to be honest with you. It didn't hold up very well, and it was kind of boring at the time. If you put it on, it's 90 minutes long, it's not too long. You put it on one day on a Tuesday afternoon or something, there's worse things you can do with your time. But if you saw the movie, let me know what you think of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.